Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman, and we have a great show planned for you today. But first, the forecast from our IntellectualRadio.com Weather Center. Today, sunny and nice, high 78 degrees. Tonight, clear and cool, low around 66 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly sunny again, high 81 degrees. Tomorrow night, increasing clouds, breezy and more humid, with a chance of showers or even a thunderstorm late, low 69 degrees. The rest of the week forecast looks like this: strong thunderstorms, and it will be severe according to the meteorologists out there. Mostly cloudy, 83 degrees. On Thursday, humid, cloudy, then some sunshine, high 81 degrees. And on Friday, partly sunny and pleasant, high 76 degrees. The Drive at 5 is part of the Monday Night Mogul with the Spiritual Hour at 4 p.m. Straight No Chaser with Rhea Ray Harris at 6 p.m. Monday Night Mingle with your girl Gina at 7 p.m. and Maze Says with Maze Jackson at 8 p.m. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5, only on IntellectualRadio.com. Today, my guest is a radio and media icon who worked with greats in the broadcasting industry like Doug Banks, Tom Joyner, John Mons, and George Wilborn. Her silky smooth voice melts guys like me around Chicago hearts every time she speaks. Now she's the communication director of the DuSable Museum. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to the one and only Bunny DeShong. Welcome to the
baby.
Hey, you got to stop doing that.
You forgot to say, Roman, that we worked together.
Yeah, we did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you're all in there.
Yeah, I know. You're dating me, right?
No.
Please give IntellectualRadio.com/iHeartRadio station your background. You have a long history there. But
where do you want me to start? I mean, I'm from Champaign, Illinois, born and raised. Yes, Black people are born there. And got my degree in theater from ISU University, Illinois State, and decided to move to Chicago to be a star. I was going to do stage, and I did. I got my equity card through the Goodman Theater. Did a lot of theater with the Victory Gardens as well as Chicago Theater Company. And I worked at Columbia College for a while. And then I was doing a group of us decided that we were going to do a radio soap opera. And that's when I got together with Richard Pegee. And I quit my job at Columbia College, and Richard said, and he was then the program director of AM, WGCI AM. And he said, Bonnie, we're going to start a traffic, doing our own traffic. Would you like to do it? I said, I don't know how to do traffic. He said, I'll teach you. I said, okay. And that's how I got into radio. And I was blessed to start off doing traffic for Bob Wall. And my good friend Brenda Montgomery did traffic. She did Bob Wall. And then I was doing afternoons with Tom Joyner. And then she went out on pregnancy leave. And so I started doing a double shift with Bob Wall and Tom Joyner. And she decided to stay home with her child. Bob Wall got in a little bit of trouble and was taken off the air, and they brought Doug Banks over. So then I became Doug Banks in the morning and Tom in the afternoon. And then finally, Doug brought me over to, Doug brought me over to the station, and I became part of Banks and Company. And the rest is like history. Was that long enough for you?
No, because you have quite like a thesis of a background history there, but we can accept that for now.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Define the inspiration that led you to broadcasting. You mentioned theater.
Mm-hmm.
Theater was your passion, and then you mentioned Pegee. That what kind of like sparked that moment that I want to do this full time?
Trust me, it was. I remember my very first traffic. We were in the Sears Tower, is where the traffic station was. We were on the 103rd floor in an elevator shaft. So to get to work, I had to go up 2 elevators and then go into a small elevator and go up to the elevator shaft. The elevator doors opened and there was a closet. I mean, like a coat closet. I opened it up, pulled down the floor, pulled out the chair, turned on the scanners because we didn't have all that other fancy computer equipment. We listened to police scanners, got my binoculars, went out on the Sears Tower 103rd deck and looked. And on a clear day, you could see all the way to O'Hare from up there. So once I got into that, and Tom Joyner was wonderful because Tom said, Bonnie, I lead, you follow. Just listen. And a lot of people didn't realize that Tom Joyner, being the fly jock, he would tape the last hour of the show and would be on his way to the airport. But I had to listen to what he said, so it sounded like we were in the same room carrying on the same conversation. So that was a great lesson for me because it taught me to listen. And then once I was brought over to the actual studios, I realized, yeah, I like this. My theater background allowed me to improvise, which was great because Doug was like all over the place and we had a great time doing that. And there were like 6 people in the studio at the same time, all the time. And it also helped me with my interview skills, which I love to do. So I think almost from after 6 months, I was hooked. I was ready. I wanted to do it, and I still want to do it all the time.
You were one of the trendsetters
Ha 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 ha.
in broadcasting among women because there were very few women in broadcasting during that time.
Well, there was a lot of women, but women weren't allowed to do many things. I mean, you had the great Yvonne Daniels who did middays. And if you don't know her, you need to look her up because the woman is phenomenal. You had Mary D. You had Chili Childs and all these other wonderful people. You had LaDonna Tittle. You know, these women were awesome and paved the way. Isabel Joseph Johnson. Look them up, folks. Look them up. These ladies were phenomenal, but women were only allowed to do certain things. And even today, you know, a woman can do middays, a woman can do overnights, but very seldom will you find a woman driving morning drive and afternoon drive. You know, that it's always a guy. So there were a lot of women that came before me that paved the way for all of us to come through and that had a lot more talent than I will ever have. Because, and this may sound strange, there are certain people who are DJs and there's certain people that are personalities. I am not a DJ. I was an on-air personality. If you got me into a place to spin some records, I couldn't do it. But I can work a crowd, I can talk to a crowd, I can bring up what's going on, I can motivate, I can do that. But then you got Tittle, you had Yvonne Daniels, you had Chili Childs, all these, Troy Tyler, all of these wonderful women who get on that board and can just talk a song up, bring it down, make you just want to go out and buy that sucker, you know. So yeah, women, I didn't blaze that many trails for women. There were so many before me. I will say that I did motivate women to be able to do this, to feel comfortable in their own skin, to be able to sit next to a guy as wonderful as Doug and Tom and John and Tony Richards and George. I mean, to be able to sit next to those guys and communicate with them and bring out that woman's point of view and and not just giggle, but have a strong viewpoint. Yeah, I kind of helped that out some. I'll take that.
What was the key of survival in the radio industry? They always say you got to have thick skin.
Oh, you do.
tough as nails type of industry. You survived so many years in
I
an industry like that. What advice would you give someone that's thinking about
going
radio?
into it,
Yeah.
I would say to anybody, male, female, whatever, when you go into radio, a lot of people want to go and be on air, which is great, but learn how to be off air. Learn how to run a board, learn how to edit, learn how to produce, learn how to do news, learn how to do traffic, learn every single aspect of radio, because you never know what may get you in the door to get you up on air. And if the only thing you can do is on air and you can't do anything else, then when you're out, you're out. And also, the money is really behind the scenes. Yeah, you can get some money on air, but your longevity is behind the scenes. So learn it all, learn every aspect of it. Because where you may think that you want to be on air, you may find that you're better doing something else behind. So I would say to anybody, learn the whole aspect of the business.
You are described to many in the broadcasting industry as sweet,
Oh,
intelligent,
oh,
and humble to your
oh.
roots here in Chicago.
Mhm.
No matter where you go, you always mention Chicago. Is that a correct assessment of Bunny DeShong?
Well, I'm very honored and humbled that people would think that of me, and I hope that would be. My thing has always been, especially being a radio personality or a TV personality, is the company may sign your check, but the boss are the people that listen to you or watch you. Because if they turned off the radio or they turned off the TV station to another, then you're lost. So you have to treat your listeners and your viewers like they're your boss and your family, and give them respect at that. Radio, TV is a job. That's what it is, but it's a job that I love. But it's still a job. And my bosses are those that listen. So I can't help but be humble.
I remember one time you were kidding around on air.
I was.
And you mentioned something that stuck. You said there are sometimes I love this job so much and I'm getting paid for it.
Yeah.
And you realize that, wow, I'm loving what I'm doing and I'm getting paid for it. Why you feel like that?
That's something that one of my aunts told me, that you'll know you're in the right place when you know you would do it for free. And back when I was on GCI and V103 was a wonderful time for radio. I mean, we were in the community all the time. It had gotten to a point where I could be out for lunch, and they had me doing every single weight loss product there was. And I remember sitting at lunch, and a lady walked to me and put her finger in my plate and said, "Bunny, are you supposed to be eating that?" And instead of getting angry, it's like, this woman cared enough for me to want to make sure that I succeeded in whatever I was telling them I was doing. So it put a smile on my face. And the people, Chicago especially, were like family. Everybody was everywhere you went, you got a hug, you got a smile, you got some advice. There was times when I was out in the GCI van, and it would be below zero. And the people that would drive up with hot chocolate to make sure that we were warm. And one lady brought me a scarf that she had knitted. And these kind of things, you can't help but just feel great. So yeah, I felt very, very blessed and happy that I was doing a job that I loved and that the people seemed to love me doing it.
Your main roots were working with Doug Banks. And for many years, you have worked with him and in Banks and Company too.
Mm-hmm.
Describe the behind the scenes working with Doug Banks and being part of the Banks and Company show.
Well, first off, Banks and Company, Doug came from BMX. Okay. So when he came in to replace Bob Wall, he had sort of like a crew already in place. He had Harold Lee Rush Jr., who was on the air with Bob Wall, who was like the producer. Then they brought in Shirley Clark, who is now Shirley Clark Strawberry, that you hear on the Steve Harvey show. And she was like his right hand person. I did the traffic, JJ Jackson did sports, and Wanda Wells did news. So all of these people, we were in there together. So when Doug came over, he was always extroverted person. And instead of being the type of jock that was a jock that had used us as sidekicks, he brought us together as a team. And he respected our ideas and gave us our space and allowed us to do what we do. Well, Doug was supposed to get a job in California, and he sent Shirley ahead so that she would be in place to be his co-host in LA. But the deal fell through. So Shirley was in LA, Doug was still here in Chicago, and I moved into Shirley's spot. So and Sybil Wilkes came on board, AJ Parker came on board, and we had a really good team all the time. And working with Doug, it was a lot of improv. He would come on, we don't know what Doug we would get at any given time. When he came up with Yul Brynner, he was sitting we were talking about The King and I off air, and we came back on the air, and Doug was Yul Brynner. And he had this whole bit where he did me, where he would talk to me, which is himself. And I mean, we never knew, but he would go at it, he would throw it at us, and we would take it and go, and he allowed us to grow, which made it even better. So that's how we all got strong. That's how Banks and Company was the #1 show across the country. We would have morning shows calling us, Mason from Detroit and Guy Black from Indiana would call in and say, hey, we listened to y'all today and we stealing it for tomorrow. So we would have all kinds of, it was fun. That's what it was. It was fun.
You also worked with the Mons Squad.
Yeah.
John Mons and George Wilborn. They always mispronounce his last name.
Yes.
They call him Mounds.
Mounds, everything.
Yeah. For a long time, people missed that Chicago personality, local feel coming across the airwaves. Describe working with the Mons Squad and that local connection behind it. You explained a little bit working with Banks and Company, but also you have a long history with the Mons.
John?
Yeah.
It was funny because V103 it went from BMX to V103, and Barry Mayo owned the station, and he was building a morning team to go up against Doug Banks. So he brought in John Mons from LA, who had been working with Shirley Clark. That's who she went to work with in LA. He brought in John from LA. He took me from GCI and brought me in to form the team. So it was just at first John and I over doing the Mons Squad. And then Max Myrick, who was our wonderful one of the best program directors that there is, he saw George Wilborn performing at the club, and he said, okay, let's bring in a comedian. So he brought in George, who had never done radio before. And so we were all new, trying to get to know each other, trying to gel. And finally, one day that click happened, and we were off and running. And working with John is an introvert. So John, as soon as John is like on it and popping, that mic goes off or we get in front of a group of people, John was so shy. So it was great because John was our leader. He was our conductor. He led the show. And George and I were allowed to come in and do what I did entertainment. George was funny, and we were allowed to do that. But when we went out in public, George and I were in the front, and we pulled John along, and he felt comfortable with us doing that. So we had a good teamwork going, and we loved each other, which it was the main thing. We were like all the way through. So working with John Mons was awesome. And the same thing with Tony Richards. Tony Richards was with us right after John Mons. And Tony was from Chicago, loved the community, always wanted to be out there. So we were a great team with the V crew. You know, Tony Richards, it was great. It was great.
Now I'm going to ask this $1,000,000 question.
Uh-oh.
Will there ever be, you have openings now in mornings.
Mm-hmm.
We're hearing Tom Joyner maybe off the air real soon.
Oh, I hope not. That's my show.
We hope not, but it seems like that's going to be a possibility. They're still trying to fill that gap with the afternoons with Doug Banks.
Right. They're bringing in Michael Collier, I know.
Yeah.
Is he's taking over the Doug Banks slot. So they're bringing in Chicago comedian Michael Collier. So that is supposed to be one of the directions they're going in for that Doug Banks slot.
I was hoping they'll bring the Mon Squad back.
That would be so awesome, Sauce.
Will there ever be a local morning show like it used to be?
You know,
I mean, the people are still there.
Yeah, Chicago would love that, and they're ready
Chicago,
for it.
not to interrupt, but I think Chicago is thirsty for it.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that, you know, it's all on the companies. It's all on the folks who own the stations. And if there is a morning show, it will be a younger morning show. I mean, they look at us, I think, even though we are talented, and they recognize our talent. They recognize what we contributed when we were on the air. But I really think that they would go for probably a younger set of personalities. I mean, time moves on. And even though all of us would love to be back on the air in Chicago, it was great. And I hate to say it, when Doug passed, that it brought a lot of us together again, you know, so that we could have that feel, and it felt good. But there's a younger demo that's behind us that are going into the V103 and the Soul 106s, that age group. And even though I would love to, for some reason, I really don't think that they would reach back, but they would only look forward. And rightfully so.
But you never know.
You
ratings,
never know.
Ratings speaks.
Ratings speaks, but you would find that listeners are as wonderful as they are. They're very accepting. I mean, they'll be mad for a minute, but then they'll listen, and then they'll accept, and then they'll be loyal to that person that's on the air. You know, it's in Hyde Park there is a statue, and it's man passing before time. And the one thing that you have to think about, when I was coming into radio, like I mentioned, all these ladies and stuff that went before me, then I stepped into somebody's shoes that they had made a path for. And then somebody stepped into mine. And then somebody's going to step into that person's. So, you know, as much as we still have a lot to give and would love to be there, I doubt it.
Well,
I think they'll go with
Bonnie. You know me very well. Your shoes is awfully big to fill.
Are you trying to say I have big feet?
No, I'm not saying that at all. That's a perfect good time to go on a commercial break right now. We'll be back on IntellectualRadio.com/iHeart radio station, The Drive at 5 with Bunny DeShong. And we're back on the Drive at 5 on intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station. Bunny DeShong is our guest. I'm so thrilled you're here with us
I'm
today.
thrilled that you asked me.
We spooked her a little bit. Let's talk about you for a minute.
Okay.
You owned your own media company and did some broadcasting work for the city of Chicago, correct?
Well, I would say that I have an incorporation that is now, I was Bonnie's Eye on Entertainment, and now is Bonnie's Eye to the Sky. However, no, I don't really have a media company. I was the host of Chicago Works with Chicago Municipal Television. When I was let go from V103 in 2004, Mayor Daley found out about it and gave me a call and said, "Hey, I got a place for you here if you want to come and do television." And I said, "Sure." So from 2004 to 2011, when our mayor, Rahm Emanuel, came on board, I was the co-host of Chicago Works, where we would go all over the city and bring recognition to the different neighborhoods, to the different organizations of Chicago, and also to let people know the different departments of the city of Chicago that can help. A lot of people don't realize that there are so many places within the city of Chicago and that you can get help from. So we had a wonderful show. I enjoyed doing it. Wonderful producers. Um, it took me a while to get used to being on to memorizing is what it was, because we had to memorize our script. Because usually on television you can see reporters and they have their papers in their hands that they can refer to for different things. No, we had to sit there and it could be like a moment's notice. It was like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to film this, here's what you have to learn. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, you have to do the walk and talk
The walk and
spell.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have to do what I couldn't stand, though. I hated it, is when you had to do the nods, because it was for the cutaways. Like if I'm interviewing you, Roman, and after the interview, then they would shoot me just nodding while you're talking. It was like, uh-huh, uh-huh. And those things are stupid. You're just sitting there nodding. But it was so much fun. And I got to learn so much about every neighborhood in Chicago. And we have so many wonderful people and diverse neighborhoods and wonderful festivals and restaurants and just so many different things. That was just fantastic.
Would you do it again?
Of course. Of course. Rom, call me. I'll be glad to. Yes, I would do it again in a New York minute. It was fun. It was informative. It came on late at night, channel 23 and 49. And sometimes they still run some of the old ones, or you can catch it on YouTube, some of the ones that I did. But the people who vote, those people who will get out and vote in every single election, those seniors that a lot of people just cast aside to say, oh, they don't count, they're over 65. Those are the people that watched. Those are the people that get out and vote. Those are the people that said, okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to go there. I'm going to do this. So, yeah, I would do it again in a New York minute or a Chicago minute.
That's the segment, right?
Right, right.
Currently, you are the communications director.
Community relations.
Community relations, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
at the DuSable Museum. Please explain to our intellectualradio.com/iHeart radio station listeners what led you to become the director, the
of community.
liaison of the community at the DuSable Museum. It it really defines you in a way, but in essence, it doesn't define you. Hopefully, you understand that.
I do. And the thing is, everything that I have done through radio and television has led me up to being community relations director and membership development for the DuSable Museum of African American History. When I was let go from Chicago Works, the then president and CEO of DuSable, Carol Adams, gave me a call and said, "Girl, come on, we could use you." And I went, and the thing is, with the DuSable Museum of African American History, which was founded 55 years ago by Dr. Margaret Burroughs and about 10, 11 other founders in her home on Michigan Avenue, um, it's always been a part of the community. But sometimes the community can take this wonderful institution, just like we take the Sears Tower, which I will not call the Willis Tower, the Sears Tower, the things for granted because it's right here and it's right there. So it's my job to let people know, hey guys, we are a part of the community. We are a part of you. You are a part of us. And we are the one of the oldest independent African American museums of its kind in the country. And we are the only one here in Chicago. So, or in the Illinois for that matter. So we want to make sure that the community knows that we're there for them and invite them to be there for us and support us. And the way to do that is to become members of the museum. We are also a Smithsonian Institute affiliate, which is a big deal, guys. All right. I just want to put that out there.
No problem.
Okay.
Currently, people are feeling worried about the DuSable Museum future because President Obama's library will be in that vicinity. Is it a bad thing or is it a good thing? And why? Because a lot of people are saying that, you know, they're trying to drive a big institution out. Sooner or later, parking, they're going to throw, all kinds of mythical.
Mythical is it.
Yeah.
We are so ecstatic that the Obama Center is going to be within a mile of the DuSable Museum. It's going to be in Jackson Park. So it's like, picture this, you've got the Obama Center on one side, and then you have the DuSable Museum of African American History in Washington Park on the other side. So we're like bracing each other. The Obama Center will have everything about our first African American president and his books and everything like that. But you got to have that history too. You got to figure out how President Obama got where he got to have the center here. And it's great because the DuSable Museum is the anchor right here. And we're really excited because in the 4 years that it's going to take for the Obama Center to open up, the DuSable, we're working very hard to make sure that we are set, ready, independent, ready for all of these wonderful tourists that are going to come in and visit both institutions. So no, we're not worried. We're not going to be run out. We are embracing the center, and the center is embracing the DuSable Museum. Because I don't know if you heard the press conference when they announced that it was going to be in Jackson Park. They mentioned the DuSable Museum at least 6 times. We are working together. So that is a wonderful thing, and we are so excited. Yes. And parking. There'll be plenty of parking. Don't worry about parking. They're going to have parking over there. They've got parking over at MSI, and we have parking over at the DuSable Museum. So you can park in one place or the other and get to everywhere you want to go.
A lot of people fear is they're driving Blacks out of that community.
Well, that's one of the things that our now president and CEO, Perry Ermer, was just telling us the other day that the DuSable Museum is planning to be that economic um,
Engine.
engine for Washington Park in that area. And they can't, the way that the Obama Center is going to be built over in Jackson Park, from what I'm seeing, there won't be that much of, buying out people's homes and things like that. And if you don't sell, they can't send, they can't buy you out. It's not pushing out. What we need to do is, as a people, we need to get together, buy these wonderful homes, put together businesses to set up in the Washington Park and Jackson Park area. Be proactive. Okay, don't sit and wait around. Get your business in there. Buy some property. Let's make it economical for us. Let's do it. That's they let them.
Good advice.
And that's my opinion. That's not a museum. That's opinion.
DuSable is
We're excited, excited.
see, you thought I would forget about
Yes, you did. Next year, anniversary. She. So we are going to be starting off with our Founders Day, which is, don't quote me, I think it's the second month is November. We are going to be celebrating woman who was an activist, an artist, a commissioner of the. So we want everyone to come. We're going to have special membership things celebrating this awesome, awesome legend of a woman.
now. DuSable has this membership to everyone to basically join. So describe the challenge.
Okay.
What
did it?
Oh,
Oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
See, I didn't
You're a
listen.
pro.
I just stopped. I stopped.
No, that's okay because I'm not Tom Joyner. So
no, but you're close. You're okay. You're
Okay.
doing well.
So that means my pay is going to increase. Hopefully.
Only if mine does. Only if mine does. Okay, everyone that's listening, the DuSable Museum, who is the Smithsonian we would be quite well. We would be doing well. We could open up our roundhouse, which is across the street, which we're working toward getting funding to open that up. So we'll have an extension of the museum and a museum campus. Our home base museum would be the exhibitions would be even better. Our membership is one of the most economical of any museums here in Chicago. If you're 62 and over, it's only $25 for a basic membership. If you are a single person like you, Roman, and you want to have a membership, it's only $40. If you are a family of 2 adults and up to 4 children, it's $60. If you are, and if you would like to go a little higher, we have higher memberships also that'll get you more. Now I'm going to tell you something. Your membership, basic membership of that $25, $40, and $60 to the DuSable Museum will get you entry with your membership card to the Chicago History Museum, Peggy Notebart Nature Museum, Adler Planetarium, National Mexican Museum of Art, and Illinois Holocaust Museum. Okay, already with those entries, and your membership would have cost you close to $150 alone. Okay. Not only that, it gets you a Rome membership, a Rome entry, which is entry into 250 Rome affiliate institutions nationwide. So your membership card to the DuSable Museum will get you into 300, and this is your basic membership. That's not even counting if you decide to take on the plus, which brings on the Smithsonian Institute membership, which gives you your Smithsonian membership card. That's an additional $25 added on. So our thing is this. We are trying to get 10,000 members to the DuSable Museum by, excuse me, by the end of 2017. 10,000 members. And
But you're already at the halfway
we're at,
mark.
or we're already at the halfway mark. So we want to make sure that we can make it. And if we can get over that, that's great. So we're going to have various membership drives. We're having a faith-based membership drive in October. We're going to be having a sorority and fraternity calling all Greeks membership drive that's coming up next year. We are going to have a radiothon in January kicking it off. So there's so many different ways, or you can just go to the website at dusablemuseum.org, click on membership, become a member today. It's tax deductible, and that little 25, 40, or $60 will give you $3,000 worth of benefits. You can't beat that with a stick. Hey, baby.
I guess you told me.
I did. And I expect for you to become a member. And if I may,
Sure.
all right, I would keep talking about the Smithsonian, and most of you know that the National Museum of African American History and Culture is going to open on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. on Saturday, September 24th. Well, the DuSable Museum is working closely with the City of Chicago, the Mayor's Office, the Park District, and DCASE to plan a local Chicago celebration, because all of us can't go to D.C. for the opening, right? So we want you to come to the DuSable Museum and celebrate with us. It's going to be out in Washington Park in front of the museum on the morning of September 24th. We're going to have more details coming in the next week or so. So we want you to stay tuned. Go to our website. We'll be able to tell you more about it and all the other great things.
I can tell you miss radio.
I really do. I do, I do, I do, I do, I do.
What are some of the features or coming attractions you hope to see at the DuSable Museum?
We have a lot of lectures, films, wonderful exhibitions that are coming up in the
Could you give
next
us
year or so.
some examples?
Sure. We have coming up on August 26th, we have Daryl DMC McDaniels from Run DMC. Some of y'all know who he is. He's going to discuss and sign his new book, 10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide. So as you can tell from the title, it's going to be an awesome discussion and a real deep one at that. Also, we have the new Smithsonian exhibition that's going to be opening up September 24th, which is based on the museum's inaugural exhibitions exploring African American history, culture, and community. It's called Together We Rise, and it's going to be a wonderful exhibition there. In October, we're bringing in an exhibition, Collections, the legacy of Cuesta Benberry, an African American quilt scholar. So we're going to have her beautiful quilts. And we know that there are a lot of quilters here in Chicago. So we want to invite them to come and see this exhibition. Of course, we're having our normal Kwanzaa. We'll be having our King Day celebrations. And where last year or a couple of years ago, we brought this play called Anne and Emmett. And it was a meeting in a place called Memory between Anne Frank and Emmett Till. And we're in talks and bringing that back next year to the museum. It was a fantabulous, that's a new word, fantabulous performance, and it was really great. So we have a lot of things going on at the DuSable Museum. Of course, all summer long we have our outdoor things. We just finished our last jazz in the park and our movies for the season. So we have a lot going on.
Do you consider yourself a role model for Black women?
You know, I put it this way. I don't look at myself as a role model. I just look at myself as Ruth Mae and Manly DeShong's daughter, who was raised to respect people and to help people. And if someone looks at me and says, you know what, I like what she's doing and I want to do us, then that's great. My motto as you move forward, you reach back with your right hand and grab hold and bring somebody with you. I tell students all the time when I speak to different classes, people always say to the young, you are my future. You can't be my future if I'm in front of you. I am your future. I had to pave the way so that you wouldn't have it so hard to get to the point that you are, just like all of those wonderful women paved the way for me so I didn't have to go through what they went through. So if someone looks at me and say, you know what, she's doing a good job, I say thank you. I say thank you to Rutha Mae and Manley and all of my ancestors and family for teaching me to respect other people.
You wrote on your face mask, yeah, page about growing up back in the day.
Yeah.
Red light, green light.
And have a swimming pool, so daddy would turn on the sprinklers and you run through the sprinklers thinking you were doing something to cool off in the summertime. Pasted and posted again, and I did because it was the community. Look, the thing is, mornings, you got up, my chore was to clean, and hit that door, and you ran all over the neighborhood, and you played hard, and as long as you was for the phone, you were okay. Or when mama yelled out, Bunny, I could hear, and I knew it was time, but it was like you were free. And when someone said something to you, it was yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. If they said, run to the store, I you did everything that what your elders told you to do, and you were free. And we played, and we didn't have where we were stuck in a iPhone or a tablet or whatever. Mom and them didn't give us that kind of stuff where you sat in front of the TV and how we do, how many places did we go just in our minds and inventing. So wish that our children today could grow up the same way, where they wouldn't have to worry about them or that they could think and invent and create and texting each other when they're sitting next to I posted it. Think there's anything that anyone
How you came up with the phrase "Hey, baby"? Then?
That's funny because the Wiz, now there was a Wiz before the movie, folks. The stage play. I saw the Wiz about 35 times. Was the girl that played Dorothy? Her name was Renee, and we all had a great time, baby. But everybody's been so great with it.
Is there any plans, any works that Bunny will have a book?
It's funny because someone just asked me that on yesterday.
Our radio station, thanks to Earl Winfrey, the birthday man.
My birthday too.
Oh, your birthday. Wednesday. Happy birthday. And you know what? We needed to say this, that not only you won so many awards as well.
Oh, well, some. But I'm okay.
Well, thank you. So,
Thank you.
Earl Winfrey, thank you so much. And Rhea Ray Harris for helping us out as well. Also, we'll be back next week with a special guest. Secretary of State Jesse White will be in the studio with a one-on-one interview talking about his retirement and laws and legislation. I know you missed it. So Rhea Ray Harris is up next with Straight No Chasers at 6 p.m.